We were speaking about last week the Chen and the Chashivas of Klal Yisrael coming back up and bringing back up the Chen and the Chashivas is through Torah. Through Torah, you receive Hashem receives all our tefillas, and he's saying over here that there's an aspect of ches, which literally the letter ches, which is lashon of chiyus. It's that which it's the intellect, hachochma techaya, he says, that gives life to everything is the intellect. But he says over here, the Rebbe, since the light of the seichel is tremendous, you can't get through it only through the nun, which is obviously a letter in the alphabet, in the Hebrew alphabet. Shubechinas malchus. The nun also is an element of malchus, of kingship. That lifnei shemesh, according to the drasha of the way the Rebbe here is learning it, before the shemesh, before you can get to the tremendous light of the seichel sheish b'chol davar, you need malchus. Now, first of all, what does this mean? What does this mean that the seichel achmach master seichel gadol ma'od? The aura of seichel is so big, so what? I mean, when I turn on a light, usually it's geschmack. I can see what's going on. Why is it such a big seichel? Why is it so big, such a big light that I can't use it straight? So it's interesting. In a couple of days, actually, I guess next week we're going to be by the Seder and we're going to be saying the Tzach Hadash Ba'achav. We're going to be speaking about the 10 Makkos. Maybe we'll bring out frogs and we'll do like some fun things for the family. One of the Makkos was Cheshach. I remember a bunch of years ago I got those little airplane masks and I gave it out for everyone. I was like, okay guys, everyone put it on. Okay, that was Cheshach. It was dark. Now, it says that it was so dark in Mitzrayim, everyone knows that for 3 days they were just like kind of feeling their way around, and then for 3 days they couldn't move. All the little Kindle up, we all learn if they're on the toilet, they couldn't move, like they were just stuck. Now, and all the Mefarshim on the page are like, what does it mean, darkness? You're so thick that you're stuck. Darkness doesn't have thickness, it's just the absence of photons, of light particles. What does it mean that it was so thick? So they struggle with it. Some say it was like a fog that was so intense they couldn't move in it. Fine. But many years ago I had this thought, and I saw that Rabbi Yitzchak Miberditchev says it. He says that when you have the Or Ein Sof, Hashem's infinite light, so it's an amazing zach, right? But if you look at it straight, if you look at the sun straight, you just gaze at it, you burn your retinas out, and you're done. You can't see anything. Light is both illuminating, but it's blinding if you don't know how to deal with it. So the Or Ein Sof, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Or Ein Sof, on that night of Makas Cheshach, was just opened. It was just released. It was like, here's Or Ein Sof. So for the Mitzrayim, now the Mitzrayim, it was utter destruction. They had no kelim to possibly understand and connect to the Or Ein Sof. So they were just like, shock. They couldn't move. They were frozen wherever they were. They couldn't move for 3 days from that Or. But for the Yidden, who had kelim, they were always yearning for Hashem. So once you have that keli, so then you see the Or Ein Sof, you're like, yeah, this is what I was waiting for. Geschmack, gewaldig, amazing. So the Or Ein Sof is very large, and that's what the Rebbe is really speaking about here. Is that we're talking about a tremendous light, and in every single speck of creation is this tremendous Or Ein Sof. You can't even fathom it. If you'd see it, you'd be blinded. So the Rebbe says you need to have malchus. You need to have this nun in order to get it, in order to understand it, in order to be able to receive it. This beginning of malchus. Now, what is malchus? That's another thing. We speak about malchus. So obviously, these are spheres and these are nice things, but I try to in my limit of Likutei Moharan, to try to steer clear of just becoming Kabbalah and start speaking about bechinas of Kabbalah. Malchus, it's one of the final sphere, it's the lowest sphere. It's a sphere that interacts and is the physical world that we deal with. It's Aretz, it's very, very down to earth, so to speak. It's Hashem's revelation, his Scheiner is called Malchus. But what does it really mean over here? So based on Torah Nun Vav, so a lot of the things of I understand being Malchus is that, as the Rebbe is going to say in a couple of seconds, let's just read on for another couple of seconds. This is the aspect of the moon. It has no inherent light. It's a dead rock. It just has sand. But yet when you look up in the nighttime, you see it shining. That's just a reflection of the sun. And this is the element, the aspect of Malchus. Malchus does not have anything of itself. only from what it receives from the chiyas, shehi bechinas chachma bechinas shemesh kanal, from all the higher spheres, if you want to say Kabbalistically. But really over here he's saying is just from the intellect, from the Orein Seif, that's mamish, a powerful light. So the Malchus receives from that, and it brings it into this world, and then we're able to deal with it. If the Malchus is complete, then it shines with almost the same intensity and light, but in a way that we can receive it as the light of the sun. So, in a certain sense, Malchus is rulership, is kingship. So, if you learn any Hasidus, Musar, any Midas, you're not supposed to be a Melech, you're not supposed to be a Gever, sounds like Gaiva almost, Malchus, like let's have Malchus. I have the stories of the Rebbes who are very big to the Malchus, and and they wore golden robes, and on the bottom of their foot they had no sole in their shoe, and they would step on the ground and feel every pebble. Okay, yeah, you have people that knew how to really take in Malchus. But what does it mean, Malchus? So, in a certain sense, Malchus is kingship, is rulership, is something that I have over others. So, I am taller than everyone else. If I'm taller than everyone else, I got an advantage over them. I could see above them. I can reach things that you guys can't reach. I have Malchus. Or I could be smarter. Or I could be wealthier. And then I have greatness over you. So Malchus is basically anything that you have, or anyone in the world, and that's what the Rebbe in Torah Nun Vav speaks about, that every single human being has Malchus in this world, and we have to know how to use the Malchus. And that's really what the Rebbe is saying over here, is that this is all internal. We all have Malchus within ourselves. So the Malchus, though, is something that I have above others. If I have something that's above others, so now I have a choice of what to do with that. I could take it and run with it and be like, awesome, I'm taller than you, I'm stronger than you, I could beat you up, I could buy you out. Or the Malchus can be used for what it's meant to be used for, which is to recognize where it's coming from. It's coming from somewhere. Hashem is giving you a gift of wealth, of height, of whatever it is. And now, what do you want to do with it? If you recognize that it comes from Hashem and it's mamish there as a gift, then you're able to flow and give it over to other people and to the world the way you're supposed to. The Rebbe says that if you do that, your Malchus is freed. It's freed. If you take your Malchus and you use it to take, so every single thing that you're basically a slave to your own Malchus, which sounds crazy that you have, might. I'm a very strong giver. But now if everything is about my strength, I'm a slave to my strength, and I become basically a slave to my Malchus, which is not Malchus. It's trap Malchus. Or true Malchus is that I recognize that my Malchus, my greatness is not myself. It's here just to flow through me and to give to others. If I have wealth, I can give tzedakah. If I have strength, I can help people. I can defend people. If I have height, I can see things. Whatever it is, I have greatness over others. I'm going to use it to give to others. Well, one of my most famous stories that I love is from the Baal Shem Tov. I've heard it in different girsais and different tzaddikim, but like Rabbi Wein always says, they don't say the stories about me. So how they happen exactly, I don't know. But the story goes like this, the way I heard it: that there was the rich guy in Mezhebuz, and he was always the gvir in Mezhebuz, and he came over to the Baal Shem Tov once, and the way I would imagine that the conversation happened, it was like he says, it says in the davening, Mashpil geim ad haaretz, magbiah shvalim ad haaretz, magbiah shvalim ad morim. So Hashem throws down these high ones down to the earth. He says, I don't see how it applies to me, Rebbe. What do you mean? I'm just extremely wealthy. I'm so wealthy that I don't see how it applies to me. You can't lose your wealth. There have been people that have had wealth and lost it all overnight. The stock markets crashes and this and that. He says, yeah, but even if Litzur that happens, I have diversified portfolio. I have stuff in lumber, I have stuff in real estate, I have stuff in different countries. Not the whole world is not going to devalue in 1 minute. I'm going to have other businesses. And he says, Litzur, the whole world devalues. Trump's tariff backfire and the whole world goes into a Great Depression. You know what else? I have my kids. My kids have tons of money also, and they're in different businesses, and they'll support me. So I don't see how Hashem could just take me in a second and make me into nothing. Hashem says, okay, very nice. Have a good day. We'll see. So the Yidden walks out and he's going home and he's enjoying the beautiful day like we had here today. And he's, singing and whistling, and all of a sudden he sees the beautiful church over there in the distance, and he's coming closer, and the priest, who's always so friendly, comes over to him and he says, "How are you, Yasala?" He goes, "Pastor John, how are you?" He goes, "Beautiful." And he doesn't know what happened, but this Yid just gets into his head, enough. I gotta be Christian. I'm done with Judaism. I'm going in. So he tells the pastor, "That's it. I'm a Christian. Convert me right now, and the deal is done." Pastor's like, "You? Like the Gevir, the Yid?" He says, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm serious. I'm with all seriousness. Just come inside." So they go inside, they sit down, and they're speaking. The priest sees he's really sincere. He really wants to be a Christian. He does, no two ways about it. So he says, "Listen, I have a little suspicion that you're playing a big prank on me. Let's take out this document. Sign over that if you ever repudiate and you go back on being a Christian, every single asset you own goes straight to me, straight to the church. No problem. I want to be a Christian. Convert me now." Signs the document. The priest is like, I guess he's serious. I'm a shugana, but he's serious. He signs the document, puts it away, and he comes. They have a l'chaim, and they have a nachal l'chaim. They're so happy, and they're singing, and they're so excited. Before you know it, the Yid is passed out. Baruch Hashem, he can't hold his alcohol, and he's passed out. He wakes up hours later, groggy. He's opening up his eyes. He's like, "Where am I?" And he realizes that he's in the church, and he's remembering what happened. He's like, "What in the world just happened to me? Was I totally insane? Did I lose my mind? I'm not Christian. I don't want to be a Christian. I'm never going to be a Christian." And he runs out. And as he's running, he's thinking, and he says, "Oh my gosh, I just messed up my entire life." Because Baruch Hashem, he had stark emunah, and he said, "There's no way I'm going to become a Christian. And now I just lost all my money. I have zero assets because that priest is going to take every single thing that I ever had. And my kids are not going to want to have anything to do with me because they have a father who just gave away all his money to the church and became Christian. No way. They're good hidden. They have nothing to do with a guy like that." So he just realized he lost every penny, and he is literally a pauper without a penny and no one to help him. He's on the floor. Mash Birgev Ad Eretz. As he comes to the Baal Shem Tov, he just goes straight there and just starts crying. Baal Shem Tov says, "What happened?" So he tells the Baal Shem Tov, he wanted to become Christian, and now he thought he's crazy. He signed away every ounce of his property. He's crying, "Rebbe, please save me, please." Rebbe says, "You see now how it's pretty true, right?" He goes, "Yes, I see, but please save me, do something. I don't know, Rebbe, you're the Baal Shem Tov, you have miracles, So he says, "Well, read weiter in the davening. What does it say? The next words, that Hashem can lift it. Do you believe in those words also now?" He goes, "Yeah, I believe in those words also." "Go b'shalom, don't worry, go home, everything will be all right." He walks out of Baal Shem Tov a little confused. How is everything going to be all right? But then, as he's walking, he starts smelling. He sees people running backwards and forwards, and sure enough, there's a fire. There's a fire in the church, and the church burns down to the ground along with his document, never to be seen again. And he had his money all back. So what do we bring out the story? It's a beautiful Baal Shem Tov story. It's an amazing Baal Shem Tov story, but you can always learn lessons from the Baal Shem Tov stories. And I think one of the beautiful lessons, in a very visual way, is that imagine this Yid's supper from 2 nights ago to tonight. What did it look like and what did it taste like? So 2 nights ago he was sitting, "Give me the steak, okay, and a steak and a meatball and some fine wine, okay, gewaldig, when's the next business deal? Pressure, he'd really enjoy me for it." Now the next 2 nights later, when he's sitting there and he just lost everything and he knows that he had nothing, and now he just got saved miraculously, he takes every piece of steak, every single thing in his house, his linen, his bed. He's like, he's in heaven. He's enjoying it like you can't imagine. So that aspect of recognizing that every single thing we have is not ours, and it's there to appreciate, and then to be mashpia, straightforward, straight out, that's the bechina of malchus. That's an element of malchus where we could recognize the less le'megar meklum, that everything that we have is not from us. Like we said. So now he's going to go. The Rebbe is going to give the flip side of this. Now, there's a flip side. There's people that don't want to have anything to do with Chachma. I don't want to dig any deeper than the surface of everything. Leave me alone. There's nothing going on, nothing happening, everything's okay. Like I had a friend that he was going through terrible lower back pains, and I told him that there's a guy named John Sarno who heals back pain by just recognizing that your brain is able to put issues into your back. And he says, so what's the answer? What happens? Well, once you bring it back up to your brain, it goes out of your back, and then you deal with it. He goes, I'd much rather have it in my back than in my brain. What am I going to do with it in my brain? In my back, I go to the schwitz, I get a massage, I go to the chiropractor. In my head, what am I going to do with my issues in my head? Okay, there's something also to be said that once you bring it to your brain, you could just work it out, work it through, you could chop, there's a lot to be done. You could really deal with it in a much better way. It's looking at the seichel, looking at the pnimius of things. But there are people that don't want to have this idea, they don't want to have this this connection. So he says that this is the aspect of Esav. Before we said that Yaakov took the Bechira, he took the Seichel Sheish B'chal Davar. He was always looking for the Pnimius. Esav was like, Bechira, Pnimius, leave me alone. He disgraced the Bechira, the Seichel Kanal. The fool doesn't want wisdom and intellect and intuition. He just wants what his heart is feeling right now. Whatever my heart is feeling, I want to eat, I want to do smoke, I want to do anything. That's what I want to do right now. That's what I'm going to do right now. He doesn't want to dig a little deeper and say, well, why do I feel like this? Where is it coming from? What's happening here? What's going on? This galus liba, just whatever he feels like, that's what he chases after. Now, people like that, the Rebbe is saying, have malchus, they have power. Right? The Esav, I'm sure, was an extremely powerful person. He was a guy that was probably strong and able to kill people and all sorts of stuff. But it's a wicked, evil power. The moon of the other side. It's embarrassing. So now the Rebbe is going to say this is the whole thing of what's happening really inside of each and every one of us. The Yetzer Tov, this is a pretty crazy thing that the Yetzer Tov we call misken, right? In Hebrew, misken is kind of like a nebach, a sad guy, v'chacham, but he's wise. Why is he sad? Why is he like a misken? Bechinas malchus she bechinas aniya v'dala is poor, almost like poverty-stricken. The less lamagamiklum, because it has nothing of itself. A guy that recognizes that he has nothing of himself is poor in a certain sense. He doesn't have anything. But he is obviously a kli for everything then, but there's an aspect of malchus that's considered poor, but very wise. It needs chachma. Now he's a king, the Yetzer Hara, but he's old and foolish. He comes with the same old tainas repackaged 1,000 times over and forces the person to just do the same old thing like a fool. I remember a bunch of years back, they were starting the litigation against Marlboro and the big tobacco that ended up passing, and a friend of mine's father made a couple of nice dollars from that litigation, where they sued all the big tobacco companies for 50, 60 years of targeting children and targeting people to get them addicted to nicotine, and then once they're addicted, there's nothing they can do. What should they do? So they were going around doing the legal things to get the case running. So this person on the street just randomly saw me and asked me, would you like to look at some pictures? And I was a bacher then, so I had time. I was like, yeah, sure, what do you need? What do you do? Survey, okay, cool. So she said, I'm just going to open up a picture and just tell me what you see. Tell me what the picture is telling you. So she opened up a picture, and it was an advertisement for Parliament cigarettes or something, and it was like, a woman looking at a guy, and the guy was smoking a Parliament. Wow. So she said, what is it telling you? So I'm like, you don't have to be a fool, you know what it's telling me. She was, no, I'm recording it, just tell me what it's saying. I was like, it sounds stupid, do you want me to say the words? She goes, yeah, that's what I want you to do. Okay. If you smoke a Parliament cigarettes, girls are going to chase after you. I know it sounds stupid. She goes, no, that's all I need. That's all I need. Thank you. I was like, okay, great. The point is that if and when you take advertisements, Baruch Hashem, here's our best advertisement. And it's even ice cold with the sweat dripping down. And so you see the advertisements. What?
Even more addicted than nicotine.
I think so too. Yeah, a Coke. Sugar is the.
Together is more than used to be cocaine.
Cocaine
they put in sugar with caffeine instead.
I agree. I'm still in love with Coke. But where does it come from? It comes from often, the commercials where you see sweat and you see people on a beach and you knock open a can and you hear that and you're like, and you start drinking and you imagine somehow in the recesses of your mind that you're somehow on a beach with your best friends jumping up. You're just in freezing cold Muncie on a Thursday night. You're not doing anything. You're just drinking a can of sugar. But the Yetzer Hara has this thing, his Galus Liba. He's able to just convince and make all these things. And it's the same thing he's been advertising since the Romans and since Adam and Chava and since everyone. It's the same old advertisements. Drink what you want, eat what you want, do what you want. It's awesome. It's gewaldig. It's amazing. This Galus Liba, whatever your heart desires, whatever your heart's feeling, just do it. All right? We have that advertisement. Just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. Go for it. That's this Galus Liba of the Yetzer Hara. As he's Melech Zakin Exil, he's been saying the same stuff. Like if you go to any advertising agency, they just basically take the same old weaknesses in people. People like women, people feel they want validation, they want love, they want money. So let's now market whatever we're marketing for them. The same stuff, same type. We'll just repackage it, we'll change the logo a little bit, we'll do this, we'll make it red, we'll make it purple. That's it. That's Melech Zakin Exil Yetzer Hara. It's a rulership, it's a power, but it's all evil. He doesn't want wisdom. He doesn't want pnimius. Pnimius, you look at it, you're like, there's 39 grams of sugar. You're basically eating this much sugar straight into your body when you drink this kind of Coke, which will spike your blood sugar, throw you down, make you lethargic and crazy. Okay, but either way, we want it because we like it. It's delicious. But if you think a little bit deeper, and obviously everyone, this is the struggle of life within every single thing that we go through, you think a little deeper, you get to a little bit more of truth. But now how do you do this? Right? We're speaking about thinking deeper and all this stuff. The Rebbe's not going to get into it. You got to give strength, energy to this good kingship that's drawing from Chachma to overcome this evil kingship, the evil empire. Incite your Yetzer Tov against Yetzer Hara. How? Like it's a nice thing to say. Like I have good things that I want to do, but my Yetzer Hara is telling me not to. So how do you do this? Rabbi gives us an amazing Eitzah. And that's what ties back to the beginning of the Torah. Through learning Torah, that you toil in it with strength. We'll go into this a little bit. Let's just read right there. You should try to incite your Yetzer Tov to overcome your Yetzer Hara. If that works, gewaldig. Now you're seeing pnimius and you're chapping that everything's ein sof. What should you do if it doesn't work so easily? Learn Torah. Like we have a beautiful song nowadays in Pagach B'cha Menuvel Zeh. If you happen to meet this Menuvel, this disgusting Yetzer Hara, outside in the streets, what should you do to him? No, run away. Tell him, gewaldig, you're here, you're a Yetzer Hara. Just okay, amazing. Come with me to the Bais Medrash. Like the famous story, one of the Rebbes made a deal. He was living in Europe, and he wanted to always go to Eretz Yisrael. And he finally made all the plans, and he was going to Eretz Yisrael, and he had a whole argument with his Yetzer Hara that Eretz Yisrael is a heilige Platz, and you're not allowed to come with me to the Eretz Yisrael. Can I come to Eretz Yisrael? You have to stay here in Poland. So he made the whole trip, and the Yetzer Hara agreed. They shook hands on it. I don't know what that means. Shook hands, and he came to the docks in Jaffa, and he's walking down the plank, and who does Imam Shonos bump right into? The Yetzer Hara. He goes, we had a deal. What is this? What are you doing here in Eretz Yisrael? He says, that me? No, that was my brother. That was my uncle. That was the Yetzer Hara of Poland. This is the Yetzer Hara of Eretz Yisrael. The Yetzer Hara is always there. But the word is, he's always going to be here. Bring him into the Torah. Say, okay, Beseder, you're here, you have Taiva, you have this, you have that. let's go into the Bais Medrash. Okay, the Torah noisin koyach l'malchus l'kedusha, because it gives strength to the malchus of holiness. V'azim mekabel malchus shebichinas nun chias min hachachma. It gives strength from chachma, life force. Shebichinas ches, and the schab and eskasha ches v'anu. Now we have the chios of chachma, of the seichel, of the intellect, of the wisdom within everything, connecting now to the nun that you've done with Torah b'koyach, which you're going to get back to in a second, a little bit more what that means, just learning strongly. V'nasa, now you have the ches and the nun together. V'nasa alavona kol hachama. Now you have the sun and the moon reflecting perfectly. When one rises, one falls. All that evil superficiality of just seeing is God's leave, whatever I see, that's what I want, that's what I'm going to get, it falls. The Torah is good, a pathway for the tzaddikim, and the sinners, they stumble in it. I know. Through the pathways of Hashem, Yisharam Dachi Hashem, the straight pathways of the Torah, the tzaddikim that are connected to this holy kedusha, and they get strength from that. Then the other people, the sinners, they fall from this. It falls through the Torah that you learn with strength. So now, just to get into this a little bit, what does it mean learning Torah b'koyach? This is just my thoughts, like we said last week. Nachman said that you could twist your Torah this way and that way as long as you don't change halacha. So don't change any halachas. If I step on a sif in Shulchan Aruch, stop me. But b'koyach means kepshuta mamish, that as simple as you can get. B'koyach, with strength, with energy, right? I remember once I was at a bris. I think it was Laser Storage made a bris in the Likutei Moharan many years ago, and there's this yid there, and I had my video camera. I used to carry around a little camcorder, as they called it, and he was there, and he was every Amin Yehish Mirabah, the guy did with like as if he was like a sports game, like rooting for the team in the last second of the day. Man, like screaming, and he did it like 10 times just in the day that I saw. So he must have done it all the time. Amazing! You're supposed to say Amin Yehish Mirabah, all your koyach, all your strength. So when you're learning Torah, put all your koyach into it, put all your strength into it. That's one kipshutai. I was zeicha in 2 years consecutively to be by the Pesach Seder by Rav Lozer Koenig here in Monsey. That was the year that I was engaged, and then my wife is a finkel, so the next year we were in Eretz Yisrael, we were zeicha to be by Rav Nassim Tzvi, the Rosh Hashiva of Mir, the next year for the Pesach Seder, which was unbelievable experiences. And it was amazing to see that both Siddharim were almost the same. And the Rebbe says somewhere that the Seder night, you say the words B'kol Ram, and it inspires Kavanah. And Rav Koenig had that. Like there was almost no Divrei Torah. There was almost no Pshetlach and stories and throwing frogs or anything like that. It was just saying it with strength, with power, and there was 20, 25 people, family and friends, and everyone was singing it loud. It was just like a beautiful, beautiful experience. I went there at Nassim the next year, almost the exact same thing, almost no Divrei Torah, almost nothing. They were just saying it with simcha and with strength and with energy. Just say it loudly, just say it out loud. So there's an element there, and there in Torah also, that Torah b'koyach could very well just mean say it loudly. But there's more to it probably than that, in the sense that koyach obviously also is something more than that. The Rebbe says over here in Torah, I think Nun Vav, and it has to do with what we were saying before also with Malchus. He says that, and it relates very much to what we're speaking about here in Torah Aleph. He says that the Torah itself and Hashem himself is an Or Ein Sof, is a very, very large light. And how do you get to it? Is through the Torah. He says the same kind of structure over here, but he explains a little more over there, and he says that basically Hashem is too big to chap, it's too vast, and so you have to try to basically he constricted himself, Hashem's infinite light, into the words of the Torah. So every word of Torah and every letter of Torah and every pasuk and parak and in the Torah that you learn is basically a little bite-sized microdose of Hashem, and we're able to take it in and be like, beautiful. Beautiful. And so every single time that we learn the Torah, we're basically able to, b'midah v'darga, with measures, take in these little bits and pieces of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so in a certain sense, learning Torah b'koyach is just taking the Torah and learning it calmly and slowly. I was just learning a Mishnah in Pekah this week, and it said, I don't remember the exact words in Hebrew, but basically, Maher L'shmoya, Maher L'abed, I think it was. That someone that he chops things very quickly, but he forgets things, so he has schar because he gets things, but then he loses all his schar because he forgets everything. What's the point? So the Sfas Emes says that, no, you have to chop something. All these Mishnayos over there are teaching us something. So what it's teaching us is that this guy, the reason why he's Ma'ar La'abed is because he's Ma'ar L'shmaya. Because when you learn things too fast, you don't actually chop them properly, and then they just fly out. Because you didn't really understand them. Like, Rebbe, you understand? Yeah, Rebbe, I think I got it. Yeah, okay. Weiter. And you don't know anything. So of course you're going to forget it. If you sit there and you work through it, the story I always like to say over when I was a Rebbe a bunch of years back, and a boy comes in to the shir room. It was only me and him, and he says, Rebbe, I am an absolute, utter, complete failure, and I'm never going to learn Torah in my life. I was like, wow, bold statements, amazing. Why do you say such thing? He says, well, my Rebbe just now, the other Rebbe, he, obviously, apparently he feels that this is a very strong way of inspiring people to learn Torah. He says, you don't know how to learn. You're an Amoritz. You're never going to be a Talmid Chacham. Mamash, you don't know a word. Get out of my shir. So he said, of course, this guy says, I'm an Amoritz, I'm never going to learn. I said, wow, that's amazing. Okay. There's a random Gemara. I opened up to a random page. I said, read. He goes, I can't read it. Here, see this? I'd look at the two dots. Looked like it was a pretty, starting point. I said, read. Okay, fine. What do you want me to read? Just read. Amar Rava. What does it mean? I don't know. What does Amar mean? I'm not sure. What do you think it means? Say, good. What does Rava mean? Name, good. So what do the two words Amar Rava mean? Say Rava? How do you word that better? Rava says, beautiful. So read it. Amar Rava. What does it mean? Rava says, beautiful. Next. Hacha. And we went through 4 or 5 words that the question was. Each time you have to go back and say the whole thing and then translate it and make sense of it. And then you have to chop the question. And I said, what is the question? He goes, okay, if you have 3, then why do you have 3? It should be 2. Okay, good. Now let's go to the answer. Another 15 minutes later, we got through another 7 words. Going back, translating, going back. And what's the answer? That it's because of this. Okay, so now read that line again. What's the question? Good. What's the answer? Good. Mazel tov. You just finished Shas. It's like, what are you talking about, Rabbi? You're off your rocker. I said, you just finished Shas, Mazel tov. No, I didn't. I didn't finish Shas. I said, that? Repeat. And you just finished Shas. It's just that when you were in 5th grade, Yankel and Moshe were in the front there, and the Rebbe was like, Yasu, you understand? He goes, you're like, maybe. And Moshe goes, wait, Rebbe, but I have a kasha on the Ktsoy. Very good, let's go right there. And you're sitting in the back, and from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you're like, shaking your head, making believe like you somehow cop a little bit of something that if the Rebbe comes, you could say, Machlekes, Rabbi Gamliel, maybe? Yeah, very good. Okay, we'll keep you in the yeshiva as long as you pay tuition. And that's what goes on. That's what's going on. So, in the end of the day, I said to him, that's it. So much of learning Torah b'koyach means that we just don't take the time to sit and translate and understand what we're saying and get a geschmack from it. This Purim night, 2-3 weeks ago. So, I went with the boys to hear Megillah, then we came home, my wife ran out with the girls to hear Megillah, and the boys were getting ready for their groups, and it was like a random time, and I was breaking my fast, and this is very random in my house, I was like alone in the kitchen eating, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, whoa, this is rare and weird. It's like, sometimes, look, you hear like ringing in your ears after a while, you're like, it's so quiet, what is this? So, I'm sitting there, and on my Likutei Moharan Breslov chat, I pop it open, and this Yid, beautiful Yid, probably 18-year-old boy, who American, gave up himself. He's in Jenin, he's in the IDF, he's in the Israeli army, and he texts there to the group. He says, "I'm in Jenin, I don't have any alcohol, I'm barely connected to anything. How can I celebrate Purim here? Like anyone have like an eitzah, something?" So I texted him back, and I said to him that I find that if I sit down with a Likutei Moharan, and I said any sefer, and any Torah, and anything in Torah really, for me Likutei Moharan works, and I just read and I translate, no, that through the Torah, Niskabim call it tefillas, all the tefillas and bakashas are answered. And then I ask questions on myself. Why does it say tefillas and bakashas? Why, which cycles of the Torah have the tefillah coming to be answered? And I just speak it out. I find I do that for 10 minutes, and it's the biggest high that I could possibly imagine. And so I texted him that, and later on he said that he got it. It wasn't so simple, it wasn't so easy, but he tried it, and it was helpful. But then I stood up and I was like, here I am telling some guy in Jenin to do that. I'm sitting at my table alone. Why did I do that? So I grabbed my Likutei Moharan. I sat down at the table and I just started learning. And I just started learning. And one thing led to another. And 20 minutes later I was mamish flying high. Mamish made my whole Purim just to sit down on Purim night and just sweet, nothing deep, nothing looking up sukkim and coming up with pirushim and pshatim. Just read the words, speak it out, speak out your questions, speak out your problems. And like we're going to see as we develop the Torah more, all of these things are really inside of ourselves. That these malchus and the dynamic between the chiyas and the ches and the nun is all within ourselves. That we have to be able to do this within ourselves. That we have to be able to, like the Rebbe says also there in Torah Nun Vav, he says, Ki chayim heim l'moitzi'ehem. The pasuk says that it's life to those who find it. The Gemara says, l'moitzi'ehem bepeh. That when you're learning Torah, you should preferably speak out the words. You have those people that just sit there reading and learning for hours without speaking. But the Gemara, I think in Eruvin, says that you should try to speak out the words, physically say them out. Ki Torah, it helps. So when I was learning that Torah, it struck me that limaitzi'ehem is lashon of to find. Now, the crazy thing is that when you speak out things, often you find things. Now, you go to my friend, he brought it out like in therapy. So why is it called finding something? You go to a therapist, and the therapist, a good one at least, doesn't tell you, start working on your midah of this or that. He asks you questions, he gets you thinking, he gets you to open up, and then all of a sudden, start pouring out stuff that you didn't know you had. You found stuff that you yourself didn't know you had. That's what happens also in the Torah, and the Torah obviously is a reflection of each and every one of us, that when we open ourselves up and we just speak, it's not very complicated, it's not very deep, it's just speaking and just being honest and open. When you learn the Torah in that sense, it gives tremendous koyach to the Torah, whether it be a couple of lines of Gemara, or Likutei Moharan, whatever it is, and when you do it with yourself in tefillah, it also opens yourself up tremendously. And with that, hopefully, Be'ezus Hashem, the Ches and the Nun should come together, and we'll see later, next week, or whenever we adjourn, whoever adjourns, how this connects to bringing up the tefillah. Be'ezus Hashem. Shkoyach.